The PSP is 15 years old this week, which just feels unbelievable and also makes me feel quite old. It's a device that has so many good memories for me. It came along at a time in my life when I had disposable income and time to really enjoy gaming. It was there for me during so many big moments of my life, and I've got so many memories of those big moments tied to the games I was playing at the time. When the PSP was announced, I was hardly playing games. I had left university a few years earlier, and I was in a really crappy job that left me no time for gaming. My second job was much better. I had more money and time on my hands, and I was traveling a lot with work. I loved my PS2, and with all my traveling, I knew I wanted a PSP straight away. I remember talking to my friends years earlier, saying how I wanted one device that I could use to play music, watch movies, go on the internet, make phone calls, and play games on the go. The PSP was announced before smartphones, and it had me so excited that I could do so much with this little device, and I'd be able to play a Metal Gear game on it, Metal Gear Acid. On a work trip to Asia, I bought the PSP, just a couple of months after its Japanese launch. I bought it with Dynasty Warriors, and I was blown away. This was a real console game on a handheld. It looked and played better than any game I'd ever played on a handheld. The only problem with buying a Japanese PSP was that there were no English games at the time. I ended up not buying any other games for it for ages, until the US launch, that is, when I imported Metal Gear Acid. During that period, I was using the PSP as a music and video player primarily. I would download trailers from GameTrailers.com and IGN, which conveniently had videos in the PSP format. I remember on a work trip to Paris, I had my PSP watching a random video, and this very good looking lady next to me started talking to me asking what the PSP was. It turned out she was a model and going to Paris for a fashion show. In my geeky nervousness, I remember going into way too much detail about the PSP and showing her what it could do. I then started playing Dynasty Warriors and offered her if she'd like to play. She lost interest pretty quickly, and that was the end of that conversation. So the first Western game I got was Metal Gear Acid. I hadn't done any research on it and I knew nothing about it. I just knew it was Metal Gear and I wanted it. So I imported it from the US. I remember clearly I had it sent to my office and it arrived when I was traveling. The office PA emailed me and let me know I had a parcel. I was flying out again on Monday morning, so I got up super early and took a taxi to the office at 5 AM to grab it, and then head on to the airport. I was desperate to play it. I didn't know it was a turn-based strategy game. I was expecting a full-on Metal Gear experience, so I was pretty disappointed at first. As I played more, I did enjoy it, but I was feeling less optimistic about my purchase. After finishing MGA, I remember going back and playing my DS a lot more, but eventually I came back to the PSP with my DS almost forgotten. One of the turning points for me was the release of Metal Gear Portable Ops. I again imported it from the US as the UK release was months away, and I was hooked. This was a full-on 3D Metal Gear game on a handheld. I remember Christmas of 2006. Normally my whole family gets together on Christmas Day, but all my older cousins were married and were either away or doing stuff with in-laws. It was me, my brother, my parents, grandparents, uncles and aunts. The usual family Monopoly session wasn't happening, so it was pretty boring until I whipped out my PSP and started playing Portable Ops. This is not an exaggeration, I played for over 8 hours that day, partly playing through the campaign for a third or fourth time, and partly playing online. Despite my hand cramping with holding the PSP in an awkward position to control the camera, I loved every minute. Portable Ops will always have a special place in my gaming memories for being such an excellent game, and so replayable trying to collect all those characters. As the years passed, I stuck with my PSP. I got married in 2008. Heading off on honeymoon, I was playing Patapon on the flight, and my wife asked me what I was playing. Patapon was very different to the kinds of games my wife had seen me playing on my PS3, like Dead Space or Assassin's Creed. She was not into gaming at all, but the soundtrack and style had her intrigued. She gave it a go and she actually liked the game and found it cute. She still remembers the music today. We went to Malaysia for our honeymoon, and one afternoon we went to a shopping mall. I found in Malaysia you can haggle with most shops or markets. I found a random game shop that was selling God of War Chains of Olympus for £7. This was already super cheap. It had only come out a few months earlier, but I thought I'd haggle and try my luck, and got it for £4, which I was very proud of. I thought that it might be fake or not work, but it worked perfectly. I started it straight away and finished it on the flight back home. I loved it. It was a console quality God of War game on a handheld. It controlled really well despite having one less analog stick. While my wife was watching movies on the plane back, I was ripping out Cyclops' eyes and killing mythical beasts and loving it. The PSP Go came out in late 2008. I already had a decent downloadable game library on my PSP, so I wanted the Go. I thought this was the perfect size for taking out and about with me, but I didn't grab it initially because of its price. I ended up getting it a little bit later when it was cheaper, and although it's not as comfortable to play, it was small enough to fit in my pocket and I would take it everywhere with me. It was so convenient to pull out, turn it on and put it back to sleep whenever I was done. In 2010, another two big life events occurred. Me and my wife bought a new house, and my first son was born. A few weeks after he was born, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep was released. Despite being tired all the time, I was still staying up late and playing it. I did the new gamer dad thing of having my son in my lap, balancing the milk bottle on my arm to feed him while playing my PSP. That game was just amazing. I loved Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and I found Birth by Sleep to be the best of the series so far. The story, gameplay, graphics and music were just perfect, and I associate that game with being a new dad and trying to juggle those new responsibilities and also trying to do up the new house to move in. There was zero time to sit in front of a TV and play my PS3, so my PSP was my main gaming system, and that then transferred to the Vita when it was eventually released. I hadn't hacked my PSP up to then, but when the Vita was announced I thought that since support for the PSP was done, I'm gonna go for it. I then went back and replayed all these great Mega Drive and SNES games that I hadn't played in years, and it became my system to discover retro games that I loved back when I was a kid. There was a ridiculous number of great games on the PSP, and even to this day I'm still discovering new amazing games that pass me by. God of War, Ghost of Sparta, Dissidia, Crisis Core, it was just the perfect device for me with all the travelling I was doing, and I often used it as a video player or music player. The PSP is 15 years old this week, and I'm always going to have these great memories of it. So guys, what are your memories of the PSP? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Leave a comment below, and as always, thanks for watching.